There is a moment in life that almost no one is prepared for. It usually doesn't arrive loudly. It doesn't announce itself with clarity or meaning. It begins quietly, almost invisibly. One thing stops working the way it used to. A connection starts to feel distant. Motivation disappears without warning. Plans that once felt certain suddenly fall apart without explanation. And at first, you try to fix it. You try to think your way out of it, force your way through it, or return things back to how they were. But the more you try, the more life seems to resist you. What once felt stable now feels uncertain. What once felt familiar now feels strangely out of place. And that's when the deeper question begins to form. Why is everything falling apart right now? For many people, this feels like failure, like they are losing control, like something is going wrong in the worst possible way. But what if that interpretation is incomplete? What if what feels like breakdown is actually something far more intentional? Because in spiritual teachings across different traditions, and even in modern consciousness discussions, there is a consistent idea. Before clarity arrives, noise must leave. Before direction becomes visible, distractions are removed. Before a new path opens, the old one must stop pretending to be yours. And this is where most people misread the experience. They think they are being abandoned by life, when in reality, they may be being separated from everything that no longer belongs in their next level of awareness. This phase can feel uncomfortable because it strips away the things you used to rely on for identity, comfort, and distraction. The routines that once kept your mind occupied no longer satisfy you. The people you used to talk to may no longer resonate the same way. Even your own thoughts can feel unfamiliar, like they belong to someone you used to be. And in that silence, something begins to shift. Not outwardly at first, but inwardly. Because when distractions start disappearing, awareness starts increasing. You begin to notice what you were previously too busy to see. You begin to feel what you were previously too distracted to acknowledge. And slowly, the illusion of control gives way to something deeper, something quieter, something more real. But here's the part most people miss. This is not the end of your stability. This is the beginning of your clarity. If you've been experiencing unexpected changes, emotional detachment from your old life, or a sense that things are breaking apart, this message may not be random for you. Stay with this video until the end, because what you are going through may not be a collapse at all, but a clearing. And once you understand what is being removed from your life right now, everything will start to make sense in a way it never did before. What you're experiencing right now is not just change, it's selection. Life has a way of quietly separating what aligns with your next level from what belongs to your past version. And when that process begins, it rarely feels gentle in the moment. Instead, it feels like things are being taken away without permission. People drifting out of your life, habits losing their grip on you, opportunities suddenly closing, and paths you once depended on no longer responding the same way. At first, it feels personal. You might ask yourself, did I do something wrong? Or why is this happening all at once? But the deeper truth is that not everything leaving your life is being lost. Some of it is being released. Because one of the most consistent patterns in personal transformation is this. When your awareness begins to shift, your environment begins to reorganize itself around that shift. People who once matched your old energy may start to feel distant. Conversations that once felt natural may now feel forced or empty. It's not always conflict that separates you, it's misalignment. You're no longer vibrating at the same frequency, even if nothing obvious has changed on the surface. And habits behave the same way. Things that once distracted you, endless scrolling, unhealthy routines, old coping mechanisms, begin to lose their appeal. Not because you are forcing change, but because your consciousness is no longer fed by them. What once kept your mind occupied now feels like noise. Even opportunities can shift in this process. Doors that you were convinced were meant for you suddenly close. Plans collapse unexpectedly. Delays appear where there was once momentum. And while this can feel like rejection, it may actually be redirection, removing you from paths that would have kept you busy but not aligned. Because distractions don't always look negative. Sometimes they look like success that drains you. Sometimes they look like relationships that feel familiar but not fulfilling. Sometimes they look like routines that keep you stable but stagnant. And when the universe begins a clearing, it doesn't always ask for permission. It simply starts removing what your higher awareness no longer needs to keep repeating the same cycle. This phase can feel isolating because it strips away what once defined your normal life. But underneath that discomfort, something important is happening. Your field of attention is being cleaned. Less noise, less confusion, less external pull. And while it may feel like you are losing things, you are actually being made lighter. Lighter to see clearly, lighter to think independently, lighter to recognize what is actually meant for you without distortion. So if people are leaving, if habits are dissolving, if opportunities are closing in your life right now, it may not be random chaos. It may be the beginning of alignment, where everything that cannot move forward with you simply stops following. There is a phase in every real transformation that almost nobody talks about with honesty. It's not the beginning, where everything feels exciting and full of possibility. And it's not the breakthrough, where things finally start to align and make sense. It is something in between, something quieter, something unsettling. It is the silence between chapters. This is the space where life no longer feels like it used to, but nothing new has fully appeared yet. Old routines have fallen away. Certain people are no longer part of your daily reality. Motivations that once pushed you forward feel distant, almost unrecognizable. And the future, which used to feel predictable or at least planned, now feels open, uncertain, and undefined. And this is where the mind begins to struggle. Because the mind prefers continuity. It wants clear progress, familiar patterns, and visible direction. So when that structure disappears, it tries to interpret the silence as a problem. It begins to label it as failure, confusion, or delay. But what if the silence is not a mistake? What if it is intentional? Because in many spiritual perspectives, and even in psychological understanding of growth, there is a period where external noise must decrease before internal clarity can increase. When everything outside you is constantly demanding attention, it becomes difficult to hear anything within you. So life begins to quiet things down. Not always in ways that feel comfortable. Not always in ways that make immediate sense, but in ways that create space. And space can feel strange when you're not used to it. You may notice that your days feel slower, that your emotions feel more amplified, that your thoughts seem louder, even though your environment is quieter. You might feel like you are waiting for something, but you don't know what you're waiting for. And that uncertainty can feel heavy, because it sits between two identities, the person you used to be and the person you are becoming. And in that in-between state, neither version fully fits anymore. This is why many people try to escape this phase. They go back to old habits just to feel something familiar. They chase distractions to fill the silence. They rush into decisions just to create the illusion of movement. Because stillness, when misunderstood, can feel like stagnation. But the silence between chapters is not empty. It is recalibration. It is the moment where old conditioning begins to lose its authority over your perception, where external validation becomes less important, where you start noticing how much of your life was shaped by habit rather than choice. And even though it may not feel like it, something is happening beneath the surface. Your awareness is expanding. You are beginning to observe instead of react. You are starting to question what you once accepted automatically. You are slowly becoming aware of patterns you were previously inside of, without realizing they were patterns at all. And that awareness changes everything. Because once you see differently, you cannot fully go back to how you used to see. This is why the silence feels uncomfortable. It is not empty. It is active transformation without visible proof. It is the moment where life is reorganizing itself beyond your immediate perception. And this is also why patience becomes important here, even though patience is the hardest thing to practice in this phase. Because nothing looks like it is happening, but everything is happening at once. So if you are in this silence right now, where nothing seems to make sense, where direction feels unclear, and where life feels paused rather than progressing, understand this. You are not stuck between chapters by accident. You are being held in the space where your next chapter is still being written. There is a point in this inner process where something subtle begins to change. It doesn't arrive with drama. It doesn't feel like a sudden spiritual event or a moment of instant enlightenment. In fact, at first, you might not even recognize it as anything important. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, your perception begins to sharpen. It is as if the world you have always looked at is still the same, but you are no longer seeing it through the same lens. This is what many traditions refer to as the awakening of clear vision. Not because you suddenly see something new outside of you, but because the noise inside you begins to fade just enough for truth to become visible again. For a long time, your awareness was crowded with thoughts, crowded with expectations, crowded with emotional reactions, past experiences, fears, desires, comparisons, and external influence. So much of what you thought was reality was actually interpretation layered on top of experience. But when distractions begin to fall away, when people leave, when habits dissolve, when external chaos quiets down, you are left with something you may not be used to: space. And in that space, awareness starts to reorganize itself. At first, this heightened awareness can feel strange. You may notice things you previously ignored without even realizing it. The tone in someone's voice feels different. The energy behind a conversation becomes more noticeable than the words themselves. Situations that once seemed normal now feel slightly off, even if you cannot immediately explain why. It is not that the world has changed. It is that your sensitivity has increased. And with that sensitivity comes something powerful: discernment. You begin to recognize patterns faster. You see through repetition more easily. You become aware of emotional dynamics that used to operate beneath your notice. People's intentions feel less hidden, not because they are changing, but because your perception is no longer clouded by constant mental noise. This is often the moment where intuition begins to feel stronger, not in a mystical, unrealistic way, but in a quiet, grounded way. A sense of knowing arrives before reasoning. A feeling about a situation shows up before evidence fully confirms it. You start to notice that your inner responses are arriving earlier than your logical explanations. And at first, this can feel uncertain, because you were taught to trust thinking over sensing, logic over intuition, external validation over internal awareness. So when intuition begins to strengthen, there is often a period of doubt where you question whether you are imagining things or actually perceiving something real. But over time, patterns begin to confirm what you sensed, and this is where trust starts to shift inward. Another thing you begin to notice during this phase is how differently you relate to time and attention. Things that once captured your focus easily no longer hold the same power over you. Distractions feel less compelling. Certain conversations feel unnecessary. Certain environments feel overstimulating. You may even find yourself naturally withdrawing from noise, not because you are avoiding life, but because your awareness is becoming more selective. This selectivity is not isolation. It is refinement. Your attention is becoming more precious to you. You begin to realize that where you place your awareness is where your energy goes. And once that becomes clear, you stop giving your attention away so freely. And then something even deeper begins to unfold. You start seeing your own patterns. Not just the patterns of others, but your own. The way you react. The way you repeat certain emotional cycles. The way you unconsciously gravitate toward familiar experiences even when they no longer serve you. This part can feel uncomfortable because clarity is not always gentle. Sometimes it reveals things you were previously protected from seeing by distraction. But even this discomfort has purpose, because awareness is the first step toward change. You cannot transform what you cannot see. And as clarity increases, another shift happens quietly in the background: emotional distance from your old identity. You begin to notice that the version of you that used to react automatically is slowly losing its control. You pause more. You reflect more. You respond instead of react more often. It may not feel dramatic on the surface, but internally it is significant, because your identity is no longer being shaped only by habit. It is beginning to be shaped by awareness. And this is where many people misinterpret what is happening. They think they are losing interest in life, or becoming detached or disconnected. But in reality, they are becoming less reactive to illusion and more responsive to truth. Clarity can feel like emptiness at first, because noise used to feel like fullness. But as the noise disappears, something else becomes available. You begin to notice alignment. Certain opportunities feel right without needing explanation. Certain paths feel naturally closed without resistance. Certain decisions become easier because you are no longer arguing with yourself as much. There is less internal conflict because there is less distortion. And in this clarity, something powerful emerges. You stop searching as much outside yourself for direction, because you begin to recognize direction internally, not as a voice that tells you exactly what to do, but as a steady sense of resonance. What aligns feels lighter. What doesn't align feels heavier. And over time, this becomes your compass. This is the beginning of living with awareness instead of reaction. And once you experience this shift, even briefly, something changes permanently. You cannot fully unsee what you have seen, because clear vision is not just about understanding your external life. It is about recognizing how much of your past confusion was created by noise, not truth. And now that the noise is fading, you are finally beginning to see. There comes a moment in every transformation where something subtle begins to shift again. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. In fact, after everything you've been through, the confusion, the endings, the silence, the clarity, you might expect the next phase to feel like a breakthrough that announces itself clearly. But instead, it begins quietly, almost like the world is exhaling. And for the first time in a long time, the tension inside you starts to loosen, not because everything is solved, but because something within you is finally no longer resisting what is happening. This is the beginning of your next chapter emerging, not as a sudden arrival, but as a gradual unfolding. Because what you have been experiencing up to this point was not random disruption. It was preparation, a restructuring, a clearing away of everything that could have clouded your direction moving forward. And now that the noise has decreased and your awareness has sharpened, something very important becomes possible. You can actually see what is next without distortion. But here is where many people hesitate. Because after periods of uncertainty, the mind becomes cautious. It remembers confusion. It remembers loss. It remembers the feeling of things not working out the way they were expected to. So even when clarity begins to return, there is often a part of you that still waits, still doubts, still looks for confirmation before moving. And yet, this is exactly the moment where life asks something different from you. Not certainty, but trust. Trust in what you are beginning to sense internally. Trust in the direction that feels aligned, even if it is not fully explained yet. Trust in the quiet pull towards something new, even if it does not resemble anything from your past. Because your next chapter rarely looks like your previous one. It does not feel like repetition. It does not follow the same emotional patterns. It does not require you to be who you were before. In fact, part of what makes it feel unfamiliar is that it is asking you to step into a version of yourself that is not yet fully defined, but is already forming within you. And this is where growth becomes real. Not when everything is clear in advance, but when you begin to move even while clarity is still unfolding. At this stage, you may notice something important. Hesitation feels heavier than uncertainty. Staying still starts to feel more uncomfortable than moving forward. Even if you do not have all the answers, remaining in the same emotional or mental space no longer feels natural. This is not pressure. It is alignment trying to activate. Because when your awareness expands, your life cannot remain at the same level of contraction it once held. You begin to outgrow internal patterns that used to define your decisions. Fear starts to lose some of its authority, not completely, but enough for you to notice that it is no longer the only voice guiding you. And this shift is critical, because your next chapter is not waiting for perfection. It is waiting for participation, step by step, moment by moment, choice by choice. And even though you may not yet see the full structure of what is ahead, you are no longer moving blindly the way you once were. There is something different now, a sense of awareness that was not available to you before this process began. You are more observant, more intuitive, more conscious of what drains you and what expands you. You are less willing to stay in situations that no longer align, and more willing, perhaps quietly, to consider possibilities you previously would have dismissed. This is how change begins to stabilize, not through one dramatic shift, but through a series of small internal permissions you begin to give yourself. Permission to outgrow, permission to release, permission to choose differently, permission to trust what you feel instead of only what you fear. And as these permissions accumulate, your external reality begins to respond. Opportunities begin to reappear, but differently this time. Not as distractions, but as alignments. People enter your awareness who resonate more clearly with who you are becoming. Ideas begin to form that feel more natural, more connected, more you. It is not that the world suddenly changes. It is that you are now seeing it through a clearer state of being. And with this clarity comes responsibility. Because once you can see more clearly, you can no longer fully return to unconscious living. You cannot unlearn awareness. You cannot fully go back to ignoring your intuition. You cannot keep choosing what feels misaligned once you have experienced what alignment feels like. So now the question becomes different. Not what is happening to me, but what am I going to do with this clarity? And the answer does not need to be immediate. It does not need to be perfect, but it does need to be honest. Because your next chapter is not something that arrives fully written. It is something you participate in writing. With every decision you make from this point forward, you are either reinforcing your old pattern or stepping into your emerging one. And over time, these small decisions shape everything. So if things have been falling away, if life has felt uncertain, if you have been moving through silence and clarity that you cannot fully explain yet, understand this. You have not been abandoned. You have been recalibrated. And now, you are standing at the edge of something new. Not because everything outside of you is finally perfect, but because something inside of you is finally ready. Ready to move without needing full certainty. Ready to trust without needing full control. Ready to step forward even while the full path is still forming. And that is what makes this moment powerful. Because the next version of your life will not come from waiting. It will come from stepping. So take what you have learned from this process. Take the clarity that has been emerging within you and allow yourself, gently, consciously, to move forward without forcing the entire journey to reveal itself at once. It will reveal itself as you move. And if this message resonated with you, don't ignore that feeling. Subscribe to continue this journey of awareness, consciousness, manifestation, and inner expansion. Share your experience in the comments, because what you are going through is more common than you think, even if it feels deeply personal. And remember this as you move forward. You are not starting over. You are starting clearer,